Good day, and welcome back to the channel. Here at Locust Motorworks, we like to dive deep into some of John Deere's coolest technology and check out some of the best tractors ever built. Today's topic is the John Deere R. Now this tractor provided a lot of firsts for Deere, and we're going to look at what this ground pounder brought to the table. So I hope you enjoy, and if you do, go ahead and like and subscribe. Now I've got a lot of requests to do this tractor, and I'm happy to finally get to it. So let's hop in. The Model R didn't find its way to fields across America till the late 40s. After 10 years of development, it was released in 1949. Previous to the Model R, the John Deere D was the biggest tractor that John Deere offered, coming in at roughly 40 horsepower. The Model D was a tried and true plowing machine, having a run from 1923 to 1953. One of the tractors that was in direct competition with the John Deere D was the Oliver 99. Now this was a standard tractor that came in at 52 horsepower at the drawbar. John Deere knew they needed something bigger with more power, and that was the main reason behind the R. During the design, they decided to go with a diesel engine. This would be John Deere's first diesel engine that they'd put into a tractor. And at that time, diesels weren't all that common as they are today, and more farmers liked sticking with gas due to reliability and easier starting. The Model R as an idea can be traced all the way back to 1935, when really little was known about the diesel engines. But by 1936, John Deere had come up with a couple ideas. The first was an engine that started off on gasoline, and once it got to operating temperature, could be switched over to diesel. The second was a diesel engine design by Mr. Helleman. Now Mr. Helleman had previous work in the automotive industry trying to use diesel engines and had some experience that he brought to the Deere leaders. And by 1939, both of these test engines were rebuilt into something that would fit John Deere's standards. And on June 1st, 1940, Engineering Order 8059 was released, which gave the order to start building which would eventually become the R. But before it was the R John Deere, it was the Model MX. They originally built 8 of these MX experimental tractors and sent them to the field for testing. Throughout the years leading up to 1947, John Deere would build a handful each year, slowly improving on their design. Now the tin work on these earlier ones looked nothing like a John Deere. They did, however, update the tin in 47, making it look a little closer to the R we know, but it still carried the MX name. To build a good diesel engine from the ground up was no easy task. The pressure inside these cylinders is nearly double what it is for a gasoline, with it being around 875 psi. This equivalates to about 22,000 pounds of pressure against the piston. John Deere needed to build a stronger crankshaft than they've ever built before, and to help them out, they called in Lessel and Associates. These engineers helped John Deere out in creating the crankshaft that would go in the Model R. The design process of this tractor would go on to be one of the longest running in John Deere history. They wanted to try and get this tractor right, being their first diesel, and not have a flop. John Deere sent these test tractors all over North America, from way up in Canada in the cold to Mexico in the heat, and they even sent one as far away as Argentina to be tested. Between all the tractors that were sent out, over 66,000 of test hours were put on them. It's said that none of these MX tractors made it until today, and were all destroyed after they were done testing. And it was on January 12th, 1949, the first production one left the factory. This had the serial number 1000. The John Deere R boasted a powerhouse of an engine, having a 415 cubic inch engine, which equivalates to a 6.8 liter today. This engine got its lugging and torque power from a 5 3/4 inch piston by an 8 inch stroke. Now one thing that was very common in those days was using pony engines to start the big diesels. Caterpillar had done this in the past, along with some other manufacturers. So Deere went ahead and went down this same path, putting a 2-cylinder pony engine to start the R. Now this wasn't the first diesel to be put in a farming tractor, but definitely a revolutionary one, as it helped usher in the reliance and power of new diesels today. These tractors weighed in at roughly 7,600 pounds, giving you all the weight you need to keep the tractor from spinning out with good tires. Another John Deere first on this tractor was live power. Now live power meant you could independently control the PTO using its own clutch and lever assembly. And this feature had become standard on John Deere tractors to follow in the 50s. Moving on to the transmission, this tractor offered 5 forward gears and 1 reverse gear, with a top speed of 11.5 miles an hour. Another cool John Deere first on this tractor was the availability of a cab. Now they aren't super common and they are pretty rare today, but John Deere did build some. During the 6-year run on these tractors, John Deere kicked out 21,293. With a final asking price of $3,650 in 1954, this was about $1,000 more than the John Deere D, but was still a fairly economical tractor option. The John Deere R's cosmetics would feature a fully styled design, ushering in the mesh grille, which would be used on later styled tractors and into the future. This tractor would be considered a standard, with a fixed front axle as the only available option. It would also feature 2 fenders that John Deere had never used before, that curved over top of the tire. Some people claim to have a rice version or a wheat version of the R, but there was only one R produced. One thing that was different about some of the Rs is the tires that it shipped with, and this sometimes gets confused to be a rice model. Another small thing that was added to some of these tractors that were shipped with cane tires or rice tires was a mud guard. But these are few and far between in today's world and considered fairly rare. The Model R was a major success in the rice fields, being able to pull a 2-bottom pan breaker. Many farmers in the day would pull a 414 plow with this, which is a 4-bottom by 14-inch plow. It's also stated some farmers use 5 and 6 bottoms in light soil. Now this tractor isn't one of the most sought after old school John Deeres, but it's definitely one of the coolest. I believe one of the reasons that it's not as popular of a collector tractor is finding parts. They could be a little hard to get parts for and fixing. A lot of these John Deere Rs never had power steering, and it's become kind of an add-on kit, with some people adding a steering cylinder into the steering rods. The John Deere R was significantly replaced by the John Deere 80, which surprisingly came in at $200 cheaper. Now the John Deere 80 would only run for 2 years, selling around 3,500 units. I'm curious if you've ever been around a John Deere R and what you've thought of it. Anyways guys, thanks for watching this history video about the John Deere Model R. It's been a fun one to make, and I thank you guys all for watching. We'll catch you in the next video.